Good afternoon, everyone. Really happy and excited to be here. I'm going to show you just parts of a project we recently started doing called the Distributed Cooperative. First, I'm just going to quickly introduce who we are. This is a project by 10. It's a Zurich and Belgrade-based studio that practices research in architecture, and we started a few years ago, initially with this project, that actually together with Milan, who then was head of CCN. It was a public stage in Skopje. We practice through kind of self-organized, self-initiated projects. We like to think of ourselves as a kind of record label made out of architects, practitioners, writers, academics, and makers. And we continue kind of to explore media and material through our practice. This is an installation in Geneva that we did a couple of years ago, essentially called Baugespann, which is, for you familiar with the Swiss building procedure, it's a kind of way more simplified version of this, is a standard tool in Swiss building economy. A few years ago as well, we got awarded by Swiss Art Award for a study on discarded material. Actually, it's only used as a kind of material for casting in art world, called the Furan sand. We've kind of changed, we've studied this really in detail and changed around the values and researching kind of through making. This material, we've kind of been able to reveal actually what even the people who use it every day did not know about it, which ended up in a publication. This is the recent material development, which is essentially also new to us. It's a study with artificial intelligence. We were asked by a young group from Milan called Carnets to give them a drawing of our studio. And we've somehow gave them variable from actually our two studios to the one we would like to have, which is actually a really beautiful mosque. Currently, we are designing and executing an experimental house in Belgrade, which we invite you to come and visit this summer. And that led us to kind of approach to this kind of structure and spatial arrangements to be invited for a few cooperative housing studies in Switzerland that we are currently doing, and they hopefully soon are to be realized, where I get to introduce our partner in crime, Alexis, who is sadly not here, from Australia, who is a writer and urban strategist with broad experience in government, design, and media. And he's currently actually developing a first Sydney cooperative based on Zurich models. Now, why is this all important? Is because it's still a new project, as I said, and we kind of like to do it by means of learning. This is a project that essentially explores alternative ways of addressing housing issues and densification in cities. It's really a non-speculative housing model. It works on a kind of decentralized building strategy and hopefully unites them through a digital platform to something new. You'll see in a bit. Actually, just preparing this a few days ago, there was, as you all know, famous Swiss democracy. There was a referendum in Switzerland on a kind of passing a country quota on 10%, I think, non-affordable housing. And it was rejected, actually, and only a few cities and a few cantons voted for it. Basel did. Hooray for Basel, and also you can see the western part of Switzerland, which was really striking to us. But this is something that actually shows a trend that cities on their own, despite governments, must kind of tackle this issue of non-affordable and speculative developers' housing. So the cities must kind of make action. And in our study, we are really starting with the city of Zurich, since it's our studio currently, but also because actually in 2011, residents of Zurich voted in a local referendum, then became a law, that by 2050, 33% of the city's rental units must operate on non-profit basis. So really affordable. But if you look at any index from from internet, you will find out that this is an index only for renting prices for studios and small one-room apartments. I'm not sure how accurate it is, but it feels accurate, where Zurich is at sort of a top of the food chain, and I think a lot of other cities that all of you come from are also on this list, and of course the list continues. But this is sort of it's an issue. It's this overall rental stock continues to expand, so the non-profit developers are really struggling to achieve the necessary kind of growth to the 2050 timeline. And the private capital is taking kind of big parcels and plots all over the city, and at the same time, whatever remains becomes too expensive. So one has to look, as you said, kind of to alternative strategies for future. And this is just to show you how the kind of numbers increase in terms of rental. And for Zurich, just to explain, only 9% of apartments are owned, so it's really kind of a renter's city. Non-profit development is really well established in Zurich, or like Switzerland actually, over 100 years. And so the cooperatives are at the forefront of development, and you saw there for a second, 70% of the kind of non-profit Zurich housing stock is actually cooperatives. And so currently 27% of the total is non-profit. Big part of that is the city of Zurich. However, this is not really fast enough. And I like to quote this sentence a lot. It's famous maybe in Zurich and Swiss conditions. But I think you will find it everywhere, sort of a Zurich ist gebaut, which means that Zurich is built. This was in 1986. And the city completely changes even today, day by day. So it's not true entirely. And this project kind of started by us doing really large walks, which ended up in drawings, where we realized actually that there's a lot of hidden potential within the city. But actually you can find them even in the kind of official mapping tools. Just if you kind of look hard enough, you end up with the most powerful one, the cadastral map. And sort of, at least there, everything starts with ownership. In this really challenging context, the centrally located odd lots actually present an unrealized opportunity for smart densification, we believe, and they could be embedded in the kind of city existing fabric. They could be irregular in size and shape. They're complex sites. They often emerge at the borders of public-private ownership, which makes them even more intriguing. We've somehow, drawing upon the city of Zurich's open spatial data, we started identifying them and sort of analyzing them, and actually started being aware that even in the same neighborhood there would be really kind of a big number of them just popping out once you start looking. And so when making and applying a kind of a customized code we came up with, we were able to link open data, GIS information with building regulations. And so we could automate the search for these promising sites based on a range of input parameters. This is a kind of digital planning, if you could call it like that. And so the recent cooperative projects in Zurich have had this trend to kind of explore ways to bring work, living, culture together. So they offer always more than housing. But we believe by dispersing these spaces across a neighborhood, you could create a kind of decentralized or distributed cooperative, how we call it. This could be within a walking distance. And all of these would be situated on existing and unbuilt odd lots. To explore this further, we've just did a kind of series of architectural interventions, studies, actually through an invited competition we self-organized, that sort of brings this program to actually a same plot, brings these programs to same plot and sort of practices it through a different scale of architecture. And you can see a shop front, a members library, sort of a wellness, or a pad that you could just rent. Sorry, something is off. Yeah. So our project addresses an automated addresses few things, but it tries to achieve them through automated planning tools to identify and access the latent potential of odd lots in a central Zurich, or actually any other city, I would claim. It also introduces typological proposals, sort of on an architectural scale. And now we are currently developing a kind of digital platform that could actually unite this and sort of make it really user-friendly. By distributing collective resource across multiple network locations, the model looks really outward rather than in, and it encourages residents to engage with their surrounding and with their community. I mean, the barriers between sort of public, private space are really blurred, and sort of the building is reimagined at the neighborhood scale. And you can see actually this is a full kind of image of potential, how a Zurich densification could look like if we would apply the tool. Which we are really currently continuing to develop, and the method as well, and we believe it could be applied to many other places. And it could be an incredible potential actually to tackle and address, at least in near future, the kind of housing and densification crisis. And look forward to share with you more. Thank you very much for this.